right-hand man, says, "Don't even worry about this, Captain. I'm going to take care of it." Something I didn't mention earlier, Buggy has the chop fruit, which means he's able to separate different limbs and other parts of his body. It makes it really hard for swordsmen to fight him, basically. So when Zoro showed up earlier and tried to fight him, he basically tricked him and managed to get in a cheap shot on Zoro. So right now, Zoro's injured. And Kabaji fully intends to take advantage of Zoro's injuries right now. So Kabaji just starts targeting Zoro's injuries, like the wound that Buggy gave him earlier. And he's just talking about how, like, this is how pirates fight, yada, yada, yada. Zoro takes this as the opportunity to prove that he is just the coolest person on the planet. He lets Kabaji wound his wound at least 2 more times afterward. In fact, I think it's a total of 3 times that Kabaji manages to slash Zoro in his already slashed abdomen. And Zoro's response is something like, "There. Is that enough of a handicap for you? Because I'm about to show you the real difference between someone like me and someone like you." Zoro immediately takes out the unicycle riding freak and then just goes to sleep, like, right there on the floor. And the crackhead's like, "Yeah, don't worry. Go ahead, have a power nap. I'm going to wrap this up real quick." So now, Buggy and Luffy are beginning to fight. And it's in the middle of this fight that Buggy realizes the hat on Luffy's head, that's Shanks' hat. Shanks is the one person on the planet that Buggy hates more than anybody. Like, with a burning passion. And I'm not even going to get into why, because there's really no reason. Buggy's just a hater. But even though there is no reason, you imagine, like, the one person you are hating on more than anybody else in the world. From your eyes, it looks like you have basically met his apprentice. Now, you haven't seen this guy in a long time, and now you see his mini-me in a straw hat just ruining all your plans on an island for literally no reason. Like, he just got here, like, 4 minutes ago. So he gets pissed off and he starts fighting Luffy a little bit more, but while him and Luffy are fighting, Nami decides to use this as the opportunity to just steal everything. But treasure's really important to Buggy, so in the middle of fighting this crackhead, he zooms off to go try and stop Nami. This is when the crackhead does some more Bugs Bunny shit. He sees that when Buggy separates his torso and goes chase Nami, Luffy just kicks him right loose. And to just bring up the live action one more time, I love how they resolved it in the live action. Like, I thought it was a very creative sequence where Nami and Luffy were all working together to subdue Buggy, or slowly pick up at the same sequence with his head. Yeah, that's all good. What's better, though, is Luffy kicking Buggy in the nuts. And I think more than this happens later on. Like, I think, like, whenever Buggy separates himself from, like, his feet, I think it was, to go and attack Nami again, because he didn't learn his lesson the first time and just keep his eyes on the crackhead that can actually fight. All he did was separate himself from his feet, and Luffy picks up one of his feet and just starts tickling it. And that causes enough of a distraction for Nami to get away and for her to then tie up all of Buggy's limbs so that he is just this head with 2 feet and 2 hands coming out. It's hilarious, okay? It is hilarious. That lunatic is literally just Buggy. After that, the crackhead Gum bazookas Buggy all the way off the island, like launches them farther than we've seen anybody launch in the story up until this point. And I just want to emphasize one thing. What happened from Buggy's perspective? Okay, from Buggy's perspective, a crackhead showed up to an island that he had nothing to do with, beat up all of his crewmates, stole his map, and then at the end he finds out Shanks is somehow involved. And then after that, the crackhead kicks him in the nuts and beats him up too. I cannot wait to do more videos on Buggy in the future, because I really think the main problem he has with Luffy is that he's too damn hilarious, alright? I think Buggy really thought he was going to be the funniest person on the Grand Line. And he would have been, if it wasn't for a crackhead and his band of lunatics. If you thought that was funny, then wait till we get to the next topic. That is a place called Syrup Village. Syrup Village is home to a boy that cries wolf entirely too often. Like, every day he just runs through the village saying, "The pirates are coming, the pirates are coming." It doesn't matter too much, though, because, I mean, though this boy that's crying wolf, he is probably the funniest character in the entire series to a lot of people. He unfortunately doesn't really shine that bright in his debut arc. But that's okay, because a lot of funny stuff still happens. Especially if we look at the events that unfold in Syrup Village through the eyes of the antagonist, Captain Kuro with 1,000 plans. You see, Captain Kuro, as his name implies, has over 1,000 plans. And every last one of those plans is huge. He is just a ridiculously forgettable and painfully boring antagonist. I mean, for a guy whose whole thing was like, "Ooh, I'm arrogant, I'm sarcastic," sure does make a lot of stupid decisions. Case in point, his whole thing right now is that he's pretending to be the butler of one of the richest families in the town. But his plan is to earn the trust of this family, this rich family, and then after everybody in the family is gone, he can clear up wealth, and then retire with all that money anonymously and not have to worry about legal being showing up and getting into jail. You see, the problem with this is, for someone who is supposed to be characterized by self-preservation, he does not preserve himself very well at all. See, very early on in the arc, he's talking to his colleague, Michael Jackson, and they are just loudly explaining their plan on this beach. And I mean, eventually the crackhead and the boy who cried wolf, they're watching them from up on the cliff. And it's like, they're not even hiding. They're just sitting up there watching as you basically go over your entire plan. And this would be fine if Kuro didn't recognize the crackhead and the boy who cried wolf, but he does almost immediately. And immediately decides, you know what? It doesn't matter. Okay, because Usopp, you lie all the time. The villagers would never believe you. And it's like, dude, I guess, but like, you've been planning this for God how long? Okay, and why wouldn't you just take care of him? If you really don't want your plan to be thwarted, why would you not take this serious? Michael Jackson's right there. Just have him hypnotize people. See what I mean? Just very stupid. And so after a while, when he brings the rest of his pirate crew to the island to attack the village, the crackhead and his band of lunatics are there waiting for the pirate crew. And so Captain Kuro was like, okay, well, we've got the numbers advantage. So what? Like I said, what good is one crackhead and one boy who cried wolf gonna do? And it's like, you see the pattern going on, right? Everybody underestimates these lunatics because they're crazy and stupid. The thing is, though, that doesn't mean they can't fight. Luffy and the others beats up every single person on Captain Kuro's crew. Literally all of them. That forces Captain Kuro to use his cat out of the bag attack, which is literally just an attack that he uses to assault everyone around him at random. So, like, again, that's not a very effective plan. Especially when you outnumber your enemies and have them surrounded. You're just going to end up picking off more people from your side than whatever. Which is what ends up happening, by the way. And so, as you can imagine, every last pirate in Captain Kuro's crew gets beaten up until eventually it's just Michael Jackson and Captain Kuro, and they wipe the floor with them. It's neither climactic nor thrilling. It's just, I just really could not believe this guy who was arrogantly shifting his glasses up to adjust them every time, pretending like he was the smartest person in the room, was actually the dumbest person on the entire island. So that's it. Those lunatics beat up every invading pirate inside Syrup Village and recruit Usopp and then take off to the next island. On their way there, though, they stop at this very interesting and alluring restaurant in the middle of the ocean. And from here, I think we should switch the perspective yet again, and I think I'm going to choose Chef Zeph for this one. So walk with me. You are Chef Zeph. You are the head chef inside of the Baratier, or is it Baratier? You're inside the big-ass fish restaurant in the middle of the ocean, minding your own business, serving customers, cooking food, yada, yada, yada. All of a sudden, a cannonball comes in, blows right through your room. Minutes later, a crackhead and his friends show up, profusely apologizing, and you know what? You and Chef Zeph, you've seen some stuff, all right? You've been around pirates before. You know the only way to discipline these pirates is to make sure you put your foot down. You're like, you know what? You ruined my restaurant and my room. To pay me back, you gotta work for it. And so, to your surprise, the crackhead agrees. Like, you know what? You're right. I broke your room and the restaurant, and that's not right. So, you know what? I'll work off my debt and just tell me how long do I have to work. So you're like, all right, cool. At least the crackhead is treated as smart. So you put him to work, start washing dishes and breaking dishes, and he's really a liability. It's more of a liability in the kitchen than you ever was if you would have just let him go. So you and Chef Zeph, you start like rethinking this a little bit. But it's not too long after that another pirate comes into the restaurant and starts demanding food and says he's not going to pay for it. Which of course makes all of the chefs and staff act up, right? You trained him right. They beat his ass up and toss him outside the restaurant. Unfortunately, the big son that you basically adopted, he takes pity on this guy and he gives him some octopus fried rice, I think it was. Whatever it was, it looked delicious. Way better than that guy deserved. Now, your adopted kid's name is Sanji, and you have taken a special liking to this guy. He's an amazing person, but he's too damn kind for his own good. You know that he dreams of a life of adventure, with sailing the seven seas and finding the all true health. You guys share that dream with that. So it would actually mean the world to you if he actually left the restaurant and fulfilled his dream. Because you got one leg right now. You can't find the altar. But Sanji could. It's still very possible for Sanji. So you observe this crackhead talking to your adopted son, and they're hitting it off, and you know that the crackhead's going to ask for joining school to be a cook. Then you hear him ask, and then Sanji immediately declines because he can't leave you to this restaurant all by yourself. This infuriates you because you know that Sanji is so kind that he would literally throw away his dreams if it meant he didn't have to leave anybody alone. His head is too much for him into this dream. You know that the truth is, chasing and achieving his dreams takes a certain amount of grit, determination, and selfishness if you want to make it anyway. So you're watching him talk, and you are just hoping that this crackhead can get these dreams. A new point, though, because soon after that, another pirate kicks open the door, and he's like, I need food, I'm on deck, door, somebody feed me right now. Still demanding and saying that he's not going to pay for it, and basically everybody does the same thing the first time, including Sanji. Sanji immediately feeds him and says, you know what, that's what we do here, okay? We feed people that are hungry. So you watch your adopted son be just too kind for his own good, and then immediately after, this pirate eats the bowl of rice. The pirate just punches your son right in the face, just decks him immediately. And that was kind of funny. Like, Don City, I didn't realize this when I first watched the show, but that's hilarious. It's like we saw the ideal situation of Sanji helping out the then Don 3 comes in. So this pirate stand is Don Creek, and he's got a bunch of other pirates right outside, and he's talking about steering this ship and turning this restaurant into his own personal quarters. So he plays back, okay? He's about to try to take the restaurant. Of course, Sanji's not going to let that happen. So the crackhead looks to you, and he's like, hey, if I beat up all these pirates, does that mean I can stop doing all these chores? And you look at him and you're like, you know, you've been breaking up this. I've given you, why can't I go ahead? Like, Crackhead takes off his apron and enthusiastically runs out there and tries to beat up all the rest of the pirates. In the middle of all this, though, and to your surprise, a warlord shows up. One of the 7 warlords shows up to go rescue him, casually cutting every pirate ship in his path in half. And when he finally arrives, Don Freeze is like, oh my god, this is the guy that decimated all of our ships in the Grand Line. It's Mihawk. What are you doing here? And this swordsman that looks really Christian is like, I'm just... You think you're about to watch a massacre in your restaurant, but then suddenly a green-haired samurai stands up and is like, hang on a second, Christian, I challenge you. Mihawk pulls out the smallest blade ever and says, what seriously could be this coolest because I'm not the kind of fool who hunts rabbits with hands. This knife would be more than enough to deal with you. He pulled out a pocket knife while this lunatic that's holding 3 swords, one of which is in his mouth, charges. And the warlord effortlessly stops him. Obviously, you knew that he would, and then he proceeds to basically just murder the green hair. But the whole thing that they're doing, all of it is just, it's really respectful. You could just feel the fire inside you watching it a little bit. You're like, wow, these guys are a bit different. Even Mihawk is cool, because even though it looks like he just murdered the guy with the green hair, he's still alive. He gave him a really gnarly looking scar. He tells the green hair guy that it took a lot of guts for him to challenge me today, and I was originally just chasing these baboons so that I could pass the time. But I might have messed around and met a real one. Goro Goro, I need you to continue your training, get strong, and meet me. So now everybody's fired up. They're chanting and screaming, go get him, crackhead. So Mihawk just leaves. He was originally just looking for entertainment, and he found it. And after he leaves, Don Freak is like, well, I have no idea what that was about, but I'm going to keep trying to take the rest from him. Fortunately for Don Freak, everybody's fired up after seeing Zoro and Mihawk fight, including the crackhead. The crackhead's like, I just listened, all right? Admittedly, I did do more damage to this restaurant than you before I even got here, but I'm gonna stay. He watched the pirate beat up on this pirate for 30 minutes. The whole time the pirate Don Creed, he is just pulling out all the stuff. He's pulling out bombs. I think at one point he had poison gas. He covered the entire area, and he's just pulling out every dirty Blackbeard pirate's plate that he has in his book. None of it's stopping the crackhead, though. And I think the entire crowd that's watching understands. Once the crackhead gets a hold of this guy, oh, it's over. So everybody's watching all of this unfold, and while all of this is happening, Sanji is just watching it all. So you and Chef Zep take the time to really explain to Sanji what he's looking for. Good news. Some men, nothing else, nothing swinging, chasing him from witnessing him, before about the crackhead. He's gonna be king of the crackhead, sure enough. And I know another idiot that has aspirations that might be just as large. He's not taking him as seriously as a crackhead with nothing to lose. So with that, you retreat back into the ship. The fighting wasn't even over. You were like, absolutely, crackhead. And you go to sleep. You'll wake up, and of course, all the fighting is over, and the crackhead did win. Sanji does eventually decide to follow the dreams, a very heartfelt goodbye. The group of lunatics now have their clip. And now there is one more island that everybody has to go to before they have crossed off every island in the East, or at least every island that they need to go to the fight. And you guys know by now that the final island is Arlong Park. Let me set the stage for you, alright? Arlong is this fish guy that's racist, he murders non-Egyptians, here's the thing, I don't like Arlong, and for what he did to our beautiful navigator Navi's problem, I just don't feel comfortable seeing the events of Arlong Park in the future, but luckily, there was one person who was on the island, there to observe all of that hilarious stuff unfold with the time using the channel, they already know where I'm going with this, but this is where Luffy's first bounty question is taken, so that means that everybody, it's time for us to do the genesis of Jimmy Scoop. The Jimmy Scoop is the top that eventually works the world economic threat, because that's the internet big news morning. In fact, he hasn't even encountered the main power big news morning, the crackhead expanded lunacy. That is until Arlong Park. You see, Jimmy Scoop is a bit of a screw-up, both before he encountered the Dryads, and honestly after it, up until the New World. He's taking pictures with the lens cap. And it really gets in the way of his photographering, if you could imagine. So while our favorite crackhead is adventuring all across the East Blue, Jimmy is off on his own trying to figure out what the next step in his career is going to be. That is until, of course, in his travels across the East Coast, he hears rumors about this crazy person just running around fighting everybody. He beat up Axe-Hand Morgan and his son and freed a dangerous lunatic that wanted to be a pirate hunter until he got kicked off the force for police brutality. Beat up a killer clown, saving an entire city from, he checks his notes, buggy balls. Managed to beat the hell out of Captain Coral of 1,000 dumbass plans. And recently, Jimmy just tried to get a drink at Variety and saw the mess that was going on. Holes everywhere in the restaurant. And he was like, I'll just eat it and fix it out of it. All of it. So Jimmy follows the smoke until eventually he makes it to Arlong Park. And he's walking around trying to get as much information as he can. So far, all that he knows is that there's this fish guy that's in charge of the whole island. But that's all he can find out. Everybody else is really hush-hush about everything. So Jimmy just walking, trying to figure out what's going on, until eventually he comes across a crackhead just laying in the middle of the road. Jimmy's hesitant at first, but he eventually walks up to him. Hey, leave me alone. Taking a nap in the middle of the road. Hey, that crackhead that's been wandering around just beating everybody up for no reason. I don't remember that, but hey, you got any food on you? Yeah, like some meat, maybe a burger. You got any McDoubles on you? Do I have any McDoubles on you? Let me check. No, I do not have any McDoubles. Sorry. Hey, well, you know if there's any food close by? I want to grab some lunch from my middle of the road tent. I don't know, I think I saw Wendy's closer to the beginning of the village. I mean, I can get you so much more if you're willing to answer my question. Let me take a few pictures. Hey, yeah. Why don't you bring me some Wendy's? That'd be great. And I'll be sure to return the favor, if you know what I mean. I don't know what you mean. Why do you sound like a mobster with a godfather? What's going to happen after I feed you? Well, to Jimmy's surprise, the crackhead doesn't respond because he is already sound asleep. So Jimmy doesn't worry about it. He goes to the Wendy's, picks up a nice 4-for-4 for the crackhead so that he can answer his questions and get some pictures. And then he starts walking around again. But when he comes back to the middle of the road, the crackhead's not there anymore. So Jimmy keeps walking and trying to find him. And that's when Jimmy comes across a crying woman in the middle of the road, and the crackhead is standing right behind him. Jimmy watches from a safe distance, and he observes the crackhead put his hat on top of the crying woman's head, take a few steps forward, and then suddenly, without warning, he screams to the sky, "I'm a goofy goober!" The crackhead keeps walking, and Jimmy realizes that all of the other lunatics in his crew, they're right there waiting for him. "He's a goofy goober!" So Jimmy is watching all of this without context, like, what is going on? He has no idea why they're slow motion walking to where they are going to. Jimmy decides to find somebody else to fall through the decided just to walk ahead of them because, again, they're walking in slow motion. When Jimmy makes it to the end of that same road, he finds a blockade in front of Arlong Park. So Jimmy's like, okay, what is going on this island? Who are the fish people on the other side of that fence? And one of the townspeople give Jimmy this monologue about how they're all waiting for certain people that will come turn the hands of fate and then change the world for the better. And while they're giving this epic and dramatic monologue, Jimmy hears from over the hill, Jimmy is left only to assume that this crackhead and his friends are the certain men that will change fate for the entire island. He doesn't know what else to do, so Jimmy just sits back and watches. And Jimmy watches as these men cross the blockade and they just start beating up all the fishmen. At one point, the long-nosed guy just takes off, just runs away from the squabble. And Jimmy's like, I guess that makes sense. He doesn't really look like he's right. But so then a fishman runs off after him. But then only the long-nosed guy comes back. So Jimmy's like, are they just killing everybody? What's going on? I didn't even think that guy could fight, but apparently he took him into the woods, beat him up, and then ran back. And inside Arlong Park, it is no better. The crackhead and the swordsman and the cook, if you can't be there, just beating up everybody. So eventually, Richie beats up the big shark guy and then breaks the entire fortress of Arlong Park. The whole building comes down with one attack from this crackhead. The townspeople immediately start cheering, throwing their hats and everything in the air, thanking the crackhead for everything that he's done, and Jimmy has never been more confused. From his perspective, the fish people were like the mayor or the town officials, something, I don't know. And this crackhead, who definitely was not a part of this village before, like Jimmy knows for a fact, this crackhead just got to this island maybe like 30 minutes ago. And in that 30 minutes, the crackhead has managed to beat up literally everyone in charge of this island. It's astonishing. It's insane. But after the fight's over, Jimmy manages to give the Wendy's food report to the crackhead. The crackhead thanks him. Jimmy makes sure that the lens cap is off of his camera, and he takes the crackhead's picture. He still doesn't have too much of a concept of who this crackhead is and what these lunatics are all about. But he's about to get some more clues, because immediately after that, Jimmy walks out to his car, and he sees that one of the Marines is giving him a parking ticket. You see Jimmy parked right in front of a fire hydrant, and he's like, no, it is what it is, what it is pay. So when Jimmy walks up to the Marine to pay the parking ticket, immediately, and without warning, the crackhead sends a rubber fist flying straight into the cop that was giving him a parking ticket. He pointed out, he's just like, hey, don't mess with my friend. Why did you do that? I could have just paid the ticket. Don't mess with my friend, photo guy. I won't forget what you now all birds these. And I promise, photo guy, no matter what problem standing your way, I will be there to sort it out for you. Just come find me when you need me most. This is what I need you most. What are you, magic? What are you doing? Why did you knock this guy out? Am I gonna get in trouble for that? Nope, not if you run fast enough. Yahoo! Wait a minute, don't leave me with this. Get back here. Then he takes off chasing the track kid until he boards the ship and he sees that there's a crowd of people waiting to send him off. Jimmy takes notes and he's like, okay, wow, I guess they all really like this guy. But seriously, hang on, I got more questions for you. This is when Jimmy sees that a woman that he previously thought was just part of the village, she runs through the crowd of people saying goodbye to the pirates, and she pickpockets everyone in the crowd. It's honestly the most impressive display of pickpocketing that Jimmy has ever seen. She steals from literally everybody, gets on the ship, and looks back at him like, ain't I a stinker? Jimmy's like, what? Who are you people? You guys are all crazy. Hang on, no, I gotta get all your pictures now. Shut up, dummy. I'm gonna be king of the pirates. Let's go, guys. Hit it. Come on, sing along, all your hopes and dreams. Yeah. So Jimmy watches as these lunatics sail off into the sunset. And he's got tons of questions, but he couldn't have known that what he watched was the birth of the craziest pirate crew to ever sail the One Piece Sea. And just like all of us back at home, Jimmy was watching these lunatics sail off into the sunset. And though he wasn't quite sure what he was watching yet, he knew in his heart that it was something special. But that's it for this one, guys. East Blue is definitely hilarious, and I hope I've encouraged you to check it out. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for being interested, and I cannot wait to see you on the next one. Sing.
What dishes? It's that John Power sign. It's trash long and only 99% free. So it doesn't get passed from dish to dish. Free and snacks like that come around to the power sign.
Control spend and automated spend reports with breakfast. Spend smarter, move faster.
Down the Fire Tank Pirates and the Straw Hats. This is when Jimmy finally reunites with Big News Morgans and Stussy. Wow, rocket launcher's not working on an Emperor of the Sea? When we have seen that come? Jimmy, you handsome bastard, there you are. Were you the one behind all this? Oh, hell no, I tried to stop it. Thank God you didn't. This is big news, baby. Now all we gotta do is, whoa, hang on a second, guys. I see something over there I need to take pictures of. Oh God, this is it. The consequence of my decision. Why, God? I just wanted to make Nazi Power Rangers. Why did I go wrong? Yeah, this is big news. Why don't we need to picture to that old man? It looks like he's a terrible father with a time to teach you.
Wow, that's crazy. Have you guys seen that boxing around?
But we need to get out of here. This whole island's about to blow up. Jimmy's right, Stussy, but we probably should get our hands on that box. If the instincts inside my wings are correct, I'll bet you anything there's a bomb in that box. It's ready to explode. Wait, why do you think that? And why would you want it if that's true? Because, Jimmy, that crackhead was on Fishman Island when the Tomate box was given to Big Mom's crew. He wouldn't just let her have some treasure with no strings attached. He can't stand people whose politics aren't in line with his own. Politics, that is for that reason. I believe that was always the plan from the very start. Even Vince Smoke Steins didn't kidnap him probably a part of his big plan. His real goal was the strategic destabilization of the power structure at Home Camp Island, so that he can then install a new government in line with his political leanings. Morgan's that lunatic doesn't have any political leanings. Only insane YouTubers think that. I don't even think he can spell politics. He's just here to punch people and eat food. Well, then it's just no newspapers like Jimmy. We're just lying. Okay, well, if you're just going to print whatever you want, then why do we need to find the box anyway? What's the point? Another great point, Stussy, and a good reason we need to get our hands on that box. Either it's proof that Crackhead is a terrorist, or we'll all be right now. No can't do Jimmy, my boy. Stussy, go with me. We're going to stay behind and get our hands on that treasure and or explosive. Jimmy, you chase after those lunatics and make sure you learn about everything they do until they officially leave the island. All right, big news on 3. 1, 2, 3. Big news! The Morgans convinces Jimmy to go after the Straw Hats while him and Stussy stay behind at the tea party. And it is still chaos. The Big Mom pirates are still hunting all of the people on the Big Mom assassination team. And as soon as Big Mom herself is done with all that shrieking she was doing, she was like, all right, where are the Straw Hats? She starts sprinting, making a mad dash for all of them. And she definitely would have taken them all out if it wasn't for the kindness of Sanji himself. Because in the middle of all this chaos, Sanji elected to save his family, the family that never gave a damn about him in the first place. And they repaid this by helping the Straw Hats escape the battlefield. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't really amount to much because, The Nazi Power Rangers are nice. They managed to take out a couple of fodder Big Mom pirates, but against Big Mom herself, like, she pretty much whoops them immediately. So things are still looking pretty grim. With the Nazi Power Rangers out of commission, it looks like Big Mom is still going to catch up with the Straw Hats and take them out. Meanwhile, back at the tea party, Stussy sees someone about to steal the tomate box for themselves. And this is when Stussy reveals that she's actually an undercover government agent from Cypherpole. She uses her finger pistol to shoot the guy in the back and take the treasure for herself.
Oh no, you fell, tripped, and fell into my finger pistol. You guys saw that, right? Organs?
Shit. All right, Stussy, you got me. Don't worry, though. I don't really care that you're a government agent. Honestly, I'm just glad you're not also a bird person. I think that would be too much for me to handle. Well, wait, Stussy, watch out. The box. Stussy and Morgans watch in horror as the tomate box falls from the cliff and lands at the bottom where all of the action is happening. But it's lucky for Jimmy and the others that happened, because as soon as the box hits the ground, it explodes, blowing up the entire foundation of the cake castle the tea party took place on. Big Mom's castle starts collapsing right before her eyes. And when the castle finally hits the ground, the entirety of Whole Cake Chateau is covered in icing and cake. It is sticky and hilarious. I knew it! I knew that lunatic had a plan this whole time!
Now you're about to die, right?
Big news! Big news! Big news!
Wow. So it really was a bomb. Okay, I think I'm ready to admit that crackhead is dangerous.
The realization that she has been thoroughly humiliated and she doesn't even have a wedding cake to eat anymore, this sends Big Mom over the edge. And into an uncontrollable rage, she becomes a rampaging monster that just keeps screaming wedding cake. So she's losing her mind, breaking everything in her path as she tries to get to the Straw Hats. And at the same time, it looks like Jimmy's been trying to catch up to the Straw Hats as well. And when he finally does, it looks like Pudding is with them as well for some reason. Which means at some point during their escape, they did end up kidnapping a princess, just like Jimmy thought. And this is also when the Straw Hats decide that they need to split up again. So one group is going to be Luffy and the other Straw Hats making a beeline straight for the Sunny, and the other group is going to be Sanji, Pudding, and Chiffon, going off on their own to try to figure out a way to break Big Mom out of her hunger-induced rampage. The plan is to bake a cake so delicious that it's just going to knock Big Mom's hungry ass out immediately. So now that they're splitting up, Jimmy has a choice to make. He can either keep following the dangerous, unhinged crackhead that keeps turning around when he decides, no, actually, you know what, I think I want to fight Big Mom, even though they're actively just trying to escape the island. Or he can go with the lovesick pervert that keeps singing songs from Shrek. Jimmy doesn't need to think about this at all. He climbs on that magic carpet and is like, please God, let's get out of here. So they all head toward Chocolate Town and make the best damn cake anyone's ever seen. And as soon as they get there, they all get to work. Luckily, all three of them, Sanji, Pudding, and Chiffon, they're all pretty good cooks. So the whole process is going really well. They're making the cake and then eventually begin sailing it all the way to Big Mom. And suddenly an unexpected guest arrives in the kitchen. Jimmy, I knew he was a smart guy ever since I met you. This is a great idea. Yeah, but we're gonna poison. Hey, you don't want my cake with that shit. You're gonna ruin the taste. You're worried about the taste, and I'm worried about finishing what we started, Blackleg. Talk to your boys, Jimmy. This is the right decision. I don't know, man. I mean, we just tried to poison her with gas that the clown scientists made specifically for her, and that didn't. I think it's a little optimistic to think that rat poison is the answer to this job. No one is poisoning this cake. We don't have to do that. How am I supposed to know that, Blackleg? All of our lives are right on this, including me, my crew, my wonderful wife, and beautiful baby boy. How can you guys get accepted that the taste of a cake is enough to put all of that on the line? It'll work, baby. Because as soon as we get there, I'm going to do a Shrek 2. That is... Shrek 2. Wait, that's Shrek 2. What is that? Huh. You know what? That's just my wood. All right, Blackleg. We'll do it your way. But if this doesn't work, you better be ready to accept the responsibility for everything going wrong. I'm not worried at all, baby. All right, but let's get ready for one last play. It's time for the Shrek 2. Okay, what is the Shrek 2? What are we about to do? So Sanji and the others continue on. Meanwhile, back on the Sunny, Big Mom's hunger has turned her into an even more menacing beast as she closes in on the Straw Hats. And that's when suddenly Nami sees something approaching in the distance. It's Beiju's ship, and inside it is the wedding cake for Big Mom. The fight to rising hearts. She can carry a bright light upon the sky. I awake and I toss and I turn and I dream of what I need. Baby, I need a hero. I'll wait for a hero till the end of the night. Then shall be strong and he shall be fast and he shall be fit for the fight. Okay, just to be clear, this doesn't have anything to do with Shrek 2. Just singing the song. Shut up, Jimmy. I need a hero. Yeah, I lie on for a hero to the end of the night. Well, he's gotta be strong and he's gotta be fast and he's gotta be larger than life. Larger than life. And just like that, Big Mom eats the wedding cake and is sedated almost immediately. For the time being, she isn't a threat to anyone. Pudding gives Sanji and Jimmy a ride over to the Sunny, and finally Sanji is truly reunited with all of the Straw Hats. Strong, you did it! Time to meet you here in time. I did a Shrek too. Ah, that always works. Good thinking. You know what? I don't care. I'm just glad it's all finally over. But wait a second. Where's Captain Crackhead? I don't see him anywhere here. He's fighting a motion man that can see the future inside the mirror dimension. Of course. Well, Morgan is going to want to know everything that's happened up to this point, so what the hell? Go ahead, fill me in. What the hell? What is going on here? But Chopper fills Jimmy in on everything he doesn't know, like Luffy fighting Katakuri for 11 hours inside the mirror dimension, how he kidnapped Brule and was running around Whole Cake Island, breaking mirrors everywhere he went, and even how Luffy went back into the mirror dimension to finish his fight with Katakuri, which is probably one of the most unhinged things that he's ever done. Like, they fully could have left so much sooner, but he was like, no, I think he's going to get tired of whooping my ass before I get tired of getting my ass beat. I think, let me go back in there. I can feel it. And sure enough, a little while later, Luffy emerges victorious with Sanji waiting right outside the mirror that he escapes from to take him back to the sun. So Jimmy looks around the colossal wreck that once was Whole Cake Island, and he's like, yeah, I've seen this before. This is over. So Jimmy starts making his way back to Big News Morgan's to report everything that he's learned. Morgan's hasn't been doing nothing while all this is going on. He's been walking around talking to as many people as he can, getting as many scattered narratives of everything that's going on as possible. And after interviewing as many people as he can to get a handle on what the hell has been going on this whole time, Morgan feels like he's heard it. He tells Stussy that he knows Luffy's going to make it out alive. He's going to go on to do even greater things than what he did here on Whole Cake Island.
So, I think it's crazy, but why do you do
I'll admit, maybe that's only keep doesn't have a plan. But if it really is just traveling from island to island, crashing out, and making people laugh, well, that's something I think the whole world needs to know about. This is a new generation, Stussy, and I believe soon we'll be seeing a new pirate king emerging and send the world into a new age. Call me crazy. I think that lunatic, that crazy-ass crackhead, might just be the one to do it.
Okay, Grandma, let's get you to bed.
Ah, there you go. Please tell me I can finally go to bed, too. Jimmy, did you hear? The crackhead and his friends destroyed the entire island. And I don't even think someone had to feed him before he did it. It's actually so much crazier than that, but whatever. They should be off the island by now, and they told me they're going to Wano next. Wano, you say? Wow, that's so interesting. How long do you think it would take you to get there? How long do I think it would take me to get to a closed-off nation whose only entrance is up a waterfall? Yeah, how long? Like 1 week, maybe 2? I don't know, man. I guess I just probably wouldn't ever go there. I mean, we don't know anything about that place other than Kaido's there. Yeah, but we also know that our favorite crazy person and all of his friends are heading there, too. Morgan, please don't do this. Congratulations, Jimmy. You are now promoted to Senior Executive Field Agent. I need you to sneak into Wano and report absolutely everything about those lunatics. I'll start working on a way to get you there. Enjoy the weekend, because come Monday, you'll be in Wano, baby. So just like that, Big News Morgans goes on to write an article calling Luffy the 5th Emperor of the Sea, which of course makes every other Emperor of the Sea, with the exception of Shanks, just seethe with anger. Not least of which Kaido, King of the Beast, who is waiting in Wano to meet this crackhead for the very first time, which is exactly where Jimmy Scoops is going, much to his annoyance, but it is going to be a very hilarious time once we get to Wano as well. So that's about it for this. I mean, there's a bunch of other funny stuff that happened within Whole Cake Island as well. I imagine we probably even come back for a third time. I don't know if you can tell, Whole Cake Island is my favorite arc in all of One Piece. So I love going back to this. But, you know, I just love the narrative of Big News Morgans, honestly. I think that he's one of the most important people. He's important even in the manga. So I think it's really good that we keep updating his story. He's funny. I think the next stop for him is going to be the Reverie for sure. But the next stop for Jimmy is definitely going to be Wano. And good God. That's good. If he thought Dressrosa and Whole Cake Island was scary, get ready for those dinosaurs, Jimmy boy. Oh my God. But yeah, that's it for this one, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being interested, and I cannot wait to see you in the next one. So we all know that Enies Lobby was hilarious, but after the Straw Hats leave the government island that got blown up because of them, they came back to Water 7 and it was revealed that they got new bounties with them. And this got me thinking how funny it would be to be the guy that had to run around Enies Lobby while all that chaos was going on and take pictures of all the Straw Hats. And that is what I want to talk about today. So settle in, ladies and gentlemen. We are about to visit the early days of our favorite photographer, journalist, and sometimes accidental assassination accomplice, Jimmy Scoops. See, this is still very early in Jimmy Scoops' career. He hasn't even met Big News Morgans yet. He has, however, met Luffy, We took his picture back at our own park. And after that, he's been keeping up with the Straw Hats as best he can. And right now, the Straw Hats haven't made a name for themselves, so Jimmy sounds like a maniac when he explains that there's this magical fighting crackhead with the smell of the local government that can give him half a grilled cheese sandwich. Only when Jimmy gets to Innie's lobby, he sees that things are more lively than ever for some reason. A large crowd is gathered as a group of scoundrels slow walk to the entrance. There's also a robot person wearing a Hawaiian shirt with no pants trying to eat people. Jimmy's like, what? How did it go on? And finally, Jimmy sees a woman that he could have sworn he's seen before, but he can't be sure. But Jimmy doesn't care about any of that right now. Right now, he is just trying to get paid by selling his story and these photos to the world government. So he continues walking to the gates of justice. And on his way to the gates of justice, Jimmy stops by Spandam's office. See, Spandam is the big boss of this island. He's in control of 16 network of government spies. Jimmy, of course, doesn't know or care about any of that. He's just trying to get paid. So he shows Spandam and the others all of his photographs and goes over everything he knows about the trial. Wait a minute. You're telling me this guy is the person who beat the warlord crocodile in Alabasta? I know how that sounds. The official report says that Joker is the one who defeated crocodile and saved Alabasta. And it's like, the thought of Vice Admiral Stroker and his half-blind sidekick being confident enough to stop a revolution that was started by an underground criminal organization led by a warlord is actually more unbelievable than a crackhead with aggressive ADHD just accidentally saving Alabasta because he won a fight over his trash. But that doesn't mean this movie wire guy is the person who saved Alabasta. Just listen to me for a second. Let me walk you through what I have been hyper-fixating on these past few weeks. So I actually met these lunatics back in the East Blue. It was in a place called Arlong Park. Now, I say was because it's not fucking there anymore. They destroyed the entire town. Then one of them pickpocketed every single person on that island as she ran back to their ship. And they just left, sailed away into the sunset, not a care in the world. So at this point, I'm curious, what was that all about? Why were they here in the first place? I need an answer. So I got in a boat and I started following. Followed them all the way to a place called Whiskey Peak. Got really drunk in one of the bars and woke up 3 hours later to all the nice people that I was just dancing and drinking with just dead on the ground. I got a call for help and that's when I realized that all of my stuff was gone. I was like, damn, the sociopathic thief must have got me. But before I can process that, I see the crackhead captain start fighting the green-haired swordsman, which is destroying even more of the island. But right before that fight gets too crazy, that's when the sociopathic thief breaks up the fight between the crackhead and the swordsman. And they all take off with one of the residents of Whiskey Peak held hostage. So they get on that boat and they sail away. I go to get my boat and follow after them, but that's when I see a boat the exact size as the one I was traveling in, leaving the island, when suddenly, and without warning, it erupts in the most dramatic explosion that I have ever seen. To this day, I have no idea what that was or who that was. The only thing I knew is that I was terrified. I wasn't going to try to leave the island after I saw that because I don't, did they do that? Are they just blowing boats up to try to leave the island? What's happened? So I'm scared. I don't know what I should do. I don't know how to leave or if I even should. And that's when I see this angel in a cowboy hat walking along the shore of Whiskey Peak. So I go tell her, hey, you should be careful. There's a bunch of lunatics beating people up and blowing up boats out there. I said, we got to get out of here, beautiful cowboy hat angel. And that's when the cowboy hat angel says, hey, I've got this eternal log pose that can take you directly to Alabasta. Do you want it? And I was like, thank God, get me the hell out of here. So I take the log pose, but when I turn around, she is gone. Whoever that was saved my life. But anyway, I finally have the courage to leave the island. So I leave immediately and head to Alabasta. And on my way there, I stopped by another island. And here that a group of crazy people were just on drum.
Time to get serious. Time to go.
Battle! Hey, let's start!
regroup. Teleportation jutsu. Yes. Summoning ninja hawk. Yes. Yes. Let's regroup.
Oh, hey there.
Let's fight. All right, let's go. Let's do this.
Battle!
Yeah. Time to go.
Ninja hawk!
Yeah. All right, let's go.
Here goes!